Chapter 11. Who are we? A month ago, Boris Moisevich returned to these parts, Alexander told me. This time he had no assistants or guards with him. He looked me up. He was quiet and pensive. He and I talked for a whole day. It wasn't so much a conversation as a confession on his part. It wasn't me he was confessing to, of course, but to himself. He gave me a copy of his report on his contact with Anastasia. I copied out some excerpts for you. Would you like me to read them? Who commissioned the report? I don't know. Even Boris Moisevich doesn't know. He had a meeting with whoever it was in an opulent salon with a fireplace. His sponsor identified himself as a representative of the International Academy. But so many academies have sprouted up recently, it's hard to tell which of them are the really serious ones. Now people have begun judging the seriousness of an organization by the amount of funding that it gets. The sponsor hadn't scrimped on the financing. He'd paid for the whole trip right off in cash and promised not only a substantial bonus, but also the future involvement of the whole unit Boris Moisevich headed in a serious scientific project connected with Anastasia. When Boris Moisevich met with him upon his return to Moscow and presented his report, the sponsor took only a cursory look at it. No doubt he had already been informed of its contents. He threw the report into the fireplace and said to Boris Moisevich, "You were supposed to establish contact with Object X, as you yourself referred to Anastasia. In carrying out the project, you employed not only your own scientific methods and techniques of persuasion, but also violence. The violence was your own initiative. We have decided to double your fee for organizing the expedition, and at the same time cancel our agreements with you for any future activity. Here, take your money," he said, pointing to a briefcase standing beside his chair. "And forget about the whole thing." Boris Moisevich tried to explain that the violence had erupted spontaneously and that he himself found the whole episode quite distasteful, and he realized what harm his group's inexpertness had inflicted on any future contacts with Anastasia, and for that reason he would not take any fee at all. At that point, the man sitting by the fireplace got up from his chair and, in a tone that brooked no contradiction, articulated, "You will take it, and you will leave. You didn't care about the cause, only the money, so here, take it. We don't need you anymore." Boris Moisevich took the briefcase with the money and left the spacious office salon. He tried to share the money in equal amounts among the members of the expedition, but not all of them accepted it. It only seemed to emphasize the tremendous feeling of unpleasantness at what had been wrought by the participants. "How come you only copied out excerpts for the report for me?" I asked Alexander. "Judging by your book, you don't really fancy reading documents filled with terms that you don't understand. I tried to copy out only the important parts, in places where there wasn't too much specialized terminology." "So what did they say about Anastasia?" Alexander pulled some printed pages out of his pocket and began reading them to me. "Object X cannot be studied by traditional scientific research methods known to us today. The evaluation criteria currently accepted in scientific circles inevitably posit particular frameworks which automatically exclude properties hitherto unknown, and the possibility of encountering phenomena arising out of and connected with isolated situations and the changing psychological state of Object X. As an information source in various areas of scientific research, the object may prove to have no equal among the sources currently known to science. The object is most likely not an information carrier in itself, It is not interested in simply receiving and analyzing information. However, should there arise a particular goal, and consequently a desire, which it deems significant, information accrues to it in a form selected by an unknown entity, and in the required amount, for which object X may instantly find a practical application. Our group was able to offer only a few hypotheses, but we did confirm experimentally a number of object X's sayings regarding plants. We were able to establish the existence of the ray. The scientific terms torsion field and radio wave emissions are not really suitable here. If they are used at all, it is only because there are no other more suitable terms. The most incredible and doubtful hypothesis, in our view, was the possibility of infusing the text of the book with the hidden combinations and signs, according to Object X's terminology, of the depths of eternity and the infinity of the cosmos. The object affirms that these signs may have a beneficial effect on people. Footnote, when they're referring to the book, they're talking about Anastasia, book 1 of the Ringing Cedars series. We were recommending conducting a series of experiments comparing the parameters of the physiological changes in human beings before and after the reading of the book, with the help of measuring devices used in medical practice. This does not make much sense anymore. Already we are compelled to confirm that the fact of their existence is indisputable. These changes are not affected through the material, physiological organs of the body, but at some intangible, non-material level of society as a whole. One has the impression that within the milieu, M-I-L-I-E-U, don't know how to pronounce that. One has the impression that within the milieu of the community of people living on the earth, a reaction is beginning to take place, which we are not in a position to arrest, or for that matter, even to control. The basic evidence of such a reaction is the psychic response observed in those who have come in contact with the book. Questionnaires, along with examination and analysis of readers' correspondence, attest to the fact that the majority of readers have experienced a creative urge expressed in the form of poetic compositions, sketches, and drawings, along with the writing and performing of songs. Many readers have felt the impulse to make contact with and cultivate plants or change their profession. In certain cases, the reading of the book is followed by a significant improvement in one's sense of well-being and the disappearance of symptoms of disease. We conducted an experiment on 30 people having various ailments. In a psychotherapy, sleep therapy unit, they were asked to read the text of the book. In the case of 27 of them, an emotional concentration was observed, along with lack of sleep and an increased hemoglobin count in the blood. If we assume that the reaction on the part of these readers is due to the vividness of the image of literary art, one can confirm that in terms of psychological effect, this particular image far surpasses, by several degrees, all those hitherto known, including classical and biblical images. The indisputability of such a conclusion is confirmed by the percentage of readers who have expressed their relationship to the book in poetic and other creative forms. According to our statistical survey, this has happened with as many as one in every 19 readers. Moreover, it should be noted that the author's expository style is primitive to the extreme. It does not follow any established norm of the literary arts and the text is complete with grammatical errors, but a computer analysis of the book's readability shows that it has a readability rating of 80% or higher. In our direct contact with Object X, we noticed a phenomenon encountered nowhere else before and with no counterpart in any data observed or recorded by ufologists. We observed a spheroid energy mass resembling large ball lightning. Its energy potential far surpasses existing scientific concepts of the power of natural energies. Its ability to change the Earth's gravitational field in a specific location affords it the possibility of instantaneously transforming anything not rooted in the ground into cosmic dust. During the period of our contact, the Earth's gravitation was changed slightly, but with any increase in its power output. During the period of our contact, the Earth's gravitation was changed slightly, but with any increase in its power output, we and all material objects might have simply found ourselves somewhere out in space. By contrast, the gravitational field around Object X was not changed, which attests to the possibility of selective influence. It was evident that the change in the Earth's gravitational attraction was preceded by a reduction in the blue spectrum of natural light. One could hypothesize that the so-called gravitational attraction of the Earth is not dependent on the Earth itself, but on the pressure of light emanating from certain celestial objects, energies, or the Earth's atmosphere as created by an intelligent being. Despite its ability to acquire large quantities of information, Object X does not attempt to subject it to analysis. It processes the information it receives on the level of feelings and intuition, from which arises an impression of naivety. The interrelationships between Object X and the energy mass are simple and commonplace, established on the basis of feelings with no trace of servility or idealization. They are characterized by full freedom of action in a context of mutual respect. The luminous energy mass we observed possesses intelligence and, even more incredibly, feelings, something which ufologists have not noted in connection with a single UFO. This is evidenced by the fact that during contact with Object X, the rays of the energy mass stroked its feet and hair, and the mass itself, through its movements, reacted to Object X's emotional state. Along with the capacity of exerting a physiological effect on matter, the phenomenon perceived by us also has the capacity to produce a psychological effect. It may be hypothesized that Object X may represent an earthly human being who is periodically contacted by representatives of an extraterrestrial civilization, or that it is in communication with some kind of natural phenomenon which does not lend itself to scientific investigation. It may be further hypothesized that Object X itself represents an extraterrestrial civilization. However, the object's own declaration, "I am man, I am a woman," contradicts this hypothesis. Such a declaration places us in an unresolvable dilemma, as the question inevitably arises, who then are we? Or to put it another way, has mankind been treading a path of progress or regression?